Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for Fantasy Premier League content for the 2021-22 season. My name is Dan and today I thought I'd do a video all about those mid-priced forwards, those forwards in the price range of 7 million to 7.5 million to 8 million, those kind of guys, because I know a lot of you guys have a lot of them in your team. I know I have 2 of them in my team right now and I wanted to do a bit of research for myself to decide for sure which ones I want, and I thought, why not share this with you guys? Why not share my research? So we're going to be talking about 6 of the most popular ones. I'm not going to be talking about Jimenez or Ings in this video because Jimenez, his fixtures don't look great at the start of this season, and also there's not much data to go on from last season. And Ings, I just don't really fancy too much this year, to be honest, but maybe some of you do, but he's not going to be included in this video. So there is 6 players. They're ordered in popularity from the most popular player to the least popular player. So I'm just going to talk about them very generally to start off with, and at the end we're going to do a statistical analysis on who is the best one to pick based on the statistics of last year, and hopefully this is going to help you make the decision of who you want to go for in your team. Surely, guys. But if you do enjoy this video, please do like the video. It helps this channel so much. And of course, subscribe if you're new around here, because I know about half of you, maybe even more than half of you, are not subscribed right now. So come on, subscribe, and you can get FPL stuff in your feeds every single day. But I've talked enough. Let's start having a look at the players, starting from the most popular. And we're going to start you off with this player, Ollie Watkins. So he's going to be the most popular player of all of these forwards. I know a lot of you guys are stuck on Ollie Watkins, and to be honest, guys, he is pretty much set in my team now. I very much doubt I'm going to remove him from my team as we go forward towards the deadline. He's at 35.1% ownership. He is the player who plays pretty much every single minute he's available for. Last season, he only missed 1 game, and that was through a suspension that perhaps he was a little bit unlucky to get that suspension for the second yellow card, but we won't talk about that too much. The fact is, he plays 90 minutes a game, and when you're playing that much football, so much more football than pretty much any other footballer in the league, let alone the strikers in the league, then there's going to be more opportunities to get those goals, to get those assists, to get in the right positions and stuff like that. You literally have more opportunities because you're on the pitch that extra amount of time, which is why we like Watkins so much. It's a real safe pick. He has a very high floor, if you like. When we talk about players with a high floor, we're talking about players who will play every single game, who have a wide amount of skills, who are very important to their team and just going to play so much football. He's going to have a low floor, which means he's very, very safe to pick, which I think is why so many people are so keen on him. And then look at the fixtures as well. That Watford game, I'm not really sure what to expect from that one, but the other 2, yeah, really, really nice indeed. Going against the promoted teams, it's going to be kind of interesting, isn't it? So that's why we like Watkins. Next up is DCL, who was kind of a little bit streaky, I guess, last season. He started off last season really, really well. He ended last season not so well, I guess, and we all kind of put off him a little bit by the end of last season. But overall, you would say he had a pretty decent season, certainly his best season to date. So you can see why he's so popular. 27.5% of people have him in their teams right now. He's that little bit more expensive than some of the other guys in this list at 8 million. So maybe that puts some people off, but I don't want you guys to disregard the 8 million forwards completely. I know a lot of you guys aren't, but some of you might be thinking, I don't want to spend the extra 0.5 million. If you like the player, then go for it. So DCL is mostly going to be taking headed chances. He does get a lot of chances. He is the focal point of that Everton attack. He is the player that everything goes towards. At the end of the attack, it ends with DCL hopefully getting the goal. So that's why he is getting so many goals. But assists wise, not really so much opportunity for him to get assists there, because he is the guy who shoots. He's the end of the attack, really. The attacking sequences for Everton. So that's why it's so important. But of course, Everton do have this more Benitez, a more pragmatic manager, I guess, which means there might not be as many goals for Everton this season. It might not be as an attacking form of football as it was last season, and that's kind of saying something, because particularly at the second half of last season, it was pretty defensive stuff from Everton. We were sort of looking at 1-0 games, 0-0 games, 1-1 games. Nothing too exciting, nothing too explosive. And perhaps at 8 million, if you're spending that much money, you kind of might want a player who you can captain, a player who has that explosivity. And I don't think DCL quite offers that, although I know he did at parts of last season, but certainly towards the end and under new management, I'm not sure if he's going to have that explosiveness in there. So yeah, perhaps a little bit off-putting in that respect. We've got Bamford next as well, who I think has loads to like about. I think there's so much to like about Bamford. You can tell why he was such a popular pick last season. The fact that he's gone from a 5.5 million player at the start of last season to an 8 million player this season, that's pretty crazy, right? But he's kind of earned it by just so many goal returns, not just goals but assists as well. Something we're not quite sure about with Bamford is he's not that clinical. He gets loads of opportunities to score. Leeds generate a lot of chances. When you've got a player like Rafinha, like the creative mastery of Rafinha, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to score. And again, Bamford is that focal point in the Leeds attack, so he is going to get plenty of opportunities, and that's exactly what he had. The assists was kind of surprising that he managed to get so many assists. Perhaps he was a little bit lucky to get that many assists, but you know, we'll leave that to the stats section of the video, I think, and we'll talk about that then. But Bamford, lot to like, but the fact that he's 8 million, the fact that the fixtures at the start for Leeds are not so amazing, maybe puts us off Bamford a little bit. Maybe we can think about moving towards Bamford from maybe game week 4 onwards. That might be a little bit nicer when Leeds fixtures do turn around and get a little bit better, because the opening fixtures are not amazing. It's a lot of money to spend on a player. You're not going to captain ever. You know, bad fixtures. Maybe this is a player that you might want to rotate into your team rather than start with him. We've next got Nacho. 14.2% ownership. So now we're getting to the slightly more differential ones, and there are two with even less ownership here as well. But Nacho is an interesting one for me, because is he going to play? Where is he going to play? How much is he going to play? These are the questions that we have to ask ourselves, because, well, first of all, what formation are Leicester going to play? Are they going to play with 2 forwards? If so, who are the 2 forwards going to be? Are they going to be Vardy? Are they going to be Nacho? Are they going to be Daka? Are the 3 going to rotate around a little bit, so we never really know who's going to play out of those 3? In which case, at all times, one of the 3 players is going to miss a little bit of game time. Or on the other hand, is there going to be a 3-man attack? You know, play with wingers. We've got Harvey Barnes coming back into the Leicester team. Harvey Barnes is one of the best players that Leicester have. You're going to think that they'll probably want to fit him in somewhere. So if there's a 3-man, like a left wing, a right wing, and a striker, who's going to be striker? Is it going to be Vardy striker, Barnes on the left? Maybe Nacho might have to fill in on the right. Are Leicester going to buy another right winger? They look like they're trying to buy another right winger. So where does Nacho fit in then? Is that going to be then Vardy, Nacho, and Daka all rotating for that one striker position? I don't know. If that's the case, then that kind of writes off Nacho completely as an option, which is a real shame, because he finished off last season so amazingly. He was absolutely insane. So we really want Nacho to start, but there is just that risk. Is he going to? Where's he going to play? What's going to happen there? I don't really know. Next we have Antonio, one of my favourite players, to be fair, but I will try not to be too biased with him. There is the classic phrase, if Antonio's fit, you get him. Antonio, when fit, you put him in your team, and he kind of proved when he comes back to fitness, from fitness very, very well, and he does play well and score goals. The problem is, although we expect a lot from Antonio, and rightly so, he's been very consistent over the last few years. Whenever he's fit, he has done really, really well. There was times last season for West Ham when perhaps he wasn't involved in as many goals as we thought. You know, when Lingard came to form, it was kind of all about Lingard. It was the Lingard show. We had kind of spells where Bowen was doing a lot, very short spells where like Ben Rama looked really good, I guess. So Sheg looking really good as well. And it's kind of like, how important is Antonio going to be to these attacks? We also know that West Ham are trying to get another striker potentially. We also have the issue of Antonio's fitness. He does regularly pull hamstrings, in which case the Bowen comes in and plays the striker instead, or are they going to get a new striker to come in and fill in instead? Very, very difficult to say. So there is a lot of risk factor to Antonio. He does really well when he comes back into fitness. He goes off the boil sometimes. He can be streaky. So he's a little bit all over the place with this pick. But those fixtures that you can see on screen right now, fantastic, absolutely amazing. And finally, we have Callum Wilson, 4.9% owned right now. So really quite a differential, really. And Wilson, if you look at these stats that you see on screen right now, compare them to Antonio. They're very similar to Antonio's in terms of games played, but more goals, more assists. Is Wilson actually the secret weapon that we're looking for? Wilson, of course, is far more important to Newcastle in terms of who's going to score goals when we're at Newcastle. When we're West Ham, we're talking about, you know, Soucek, Lingard, Ben Rama, etc., Bowen. But with Newcastle, it's kind of less goal scorers in that team, I guess. So in a similar way to, you know, DCL being the the end game in the attacks, in the same way as Bamford being the end game in the attacks, Wilson has very much got that same kind of position locked down where he is the spearhead of every attack that the team has. Wilson does offer a little bit of creativity as well, which we kind of saw at the end of last season. So yeah, if Newcastle can do as well as they've kind of finished off last season, and they did finish off quite nicely last season, I wonder if Wilson could actually be a real surprise player that could do really well. Yeah, maybe. So let's do a conclusion and then look at some of the stats, try and look at a more objective statistical point of view. Now I've given my personal opinion on each player, I guess. So as you can see, they're all pretty even, and I think that each and every one of them has their own merits based on stats from last year. So I don't think there's really a right or wrong answer as to who you go for. If you pick any of these players, I think they're all good picks. Every single one of them is a good pick in their right way. So as long as you've got kind of one of them, two of them, maybe even three of them, then I think you're going to look pretty good. But it also depends on who you like the look of. Based on what you've seen today, based on what you see in front of you now, who do you like the look of? So I've put on screen next to each player whether they're a safe pick who will always play, no injury problems, and risky picks who may be a little bit injury prone, maybe a little bit rotation prone, but they can be really explosive when they do play. So if you're going to go for two players, I would take one from each category. One safe, one risky. But I cannot stress enough that risky does not equal bad. These risky picks are incredibly explosive. They are the more clinical players. They look pretty good, but only when they're actually playing. You probably wouldn't want two risky picks because if they both get injured or one of them gets injured, you're going to find yourself in a little bit of trouble. But anyway, let's talk about the stats. So, Bamford, he kind of leads the way in shots per appearance with 2.82, followed closely by Watkins with 2.62. Wilson takes the least amount of shots per game, and Bamford and Watkins take the first and second for shots in the box per game as well, which is kind of important. Now, this time, Nacho drops to the bottom there, so not too impressive in terms of shots in the box. Now, in terms of high-quality chances, however, DCL takes top spot. 0.94 big chances per game, which is really, really nice. His 0.53 expected goals per game matches this. So he is the most likely player to score based on what is expected from a striker in his kind of positions. You can kind of see that he's not the most clinical in this list, though, if you kind of look at the actuality of how many goals his players are actually scoring. So Nacho, he's the most clinical. He's followed closely by Wilson, both exceeding their expected goals. Watkins, as expected, he's kind of the least clinical on this list with his actual output well below his expected output. So for goals per game, DCL and Nacho, they lead the way, 0.58 per appearance. Nacho is particularly impressive here since 9 of his appearances were from the bench earlier on in the season. This is where Wilson flies up into third as well. So Antonio's kind of a little bit disappointing here, only 0.38 goals per game, which is the same as Watkins, but without the same creativity. So if we're looking for players who are involved in most of their team's goals, then you've got to look no further than DCL and Wilson. If either of their teams score, there's a 50-50 chance that they will be involved. So if Everton are scoring, 50% chance DCL's involved. If Newcastle are scoring, there's a 50% chance that Wilson's going to be involved. Antonio, again, like I kind of mentioned earlier, slightly disappointing here because he's only kind of involved in a third of West Ham's goals when on the pitch. Let's have a look at creativity as well. So Watkins, he makes the most key passes per game, followed by Nacho. And for big chances created, this is reversed. Nacho first, Watkins second. These two players are the most creative here. Nacho was kind of actually a little bit unlucky not to get more assists. I think Vardy missed a few chances that Nacho laid off to him. And this is also where DCL really drops down the list. He only created a chance every other game and rarely created a big chance at all. Interestingly, Bamford created the most assists last season per game, but his expected assists and other creative numbers actually look much lower, which kind of suggests that he's been a bit lucky to achieve this stat. I'm not sure if he can repeat it this season, to be honest. Now, it gets really interesting when we see that Wilson has the highest points per appearance tally from last season. He overperformed his expected stats because, as I say, he is very clinical, unlike some of the other players on this list. Watkins, quite disappointing here, purely because he's not clinical, but also because he evades bonus points. Watkins just can't seem to get bonus points. Last season, he really struggled for it. Wilson, on the other hand, bonus points magnet because he's the clear star in the Newcastle team. He's clinical. He doesn't miss his chances. He just laps up those bonus points. He's the star, and stars get you bonus points within each individual team. So 0.85 bonus points per game for Wilson. So overall, I'm finding it difficult to argue against Callum Wilson in many ways as the best option. So Watkins is the safest, but has a fairly low ceiling. Nacho has great stats when he starts, but there's no guarantee here that he will start every game anyway. DCL and Bamford, they're prone to underperforming, which makes me question whether their slightly higher price is worth it in a way. Antonio, he kind of strikes a fairly good balance, but if you look at these stats, they don't actually look that good for Antonio. In general, he's probably bottom of the list. He's probably a bottom tier. And when you add to it the injury proneness of him, I don't know, maybe Antonio's the worst player on this list. Let me know what you think there, guys. But I guess you could say about similar things about Wilson, about being a little bit injury prone. So, in conclusion, Watkins, in my opinion, is the best safe pick because of his creativity and guaranteed playtime. Watkins, he's kind of closely followed by Bamford in this category. But like I kind of said earlier, I'm a bit put off by Bamford's price. I'm a little bit put off by his fixtures as well. I think the 0.5 million you can save could be spent a little bit more wisely, especially when you consider the fixtures as well. Wilson, on the other hand, I'm going to go out there and say that he's the best risky pick for me. And I think he's seriously being overlooked by FPL managers. I think, judging by what we've seen, by what I kind of saw of Wilson last season, by looking at the stats of Wilson as well, there's a lot to like here, like a hell of a lot to like. But guys, let me know what you think and who you're going for and who you think is the best pick, who do you think is the worst pick, who are you going for, guys? That's what I want to know. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy what you saw today, please do leave a like. I would massively appreciate that. And of course, subscribe if you enjoyed what you saw today, an extra amount, and you want more FPL content on your screens every single day. I got your back, guys. I got your back. But there we go, guys. If you want to join my mini league, the link is in the description. If you want to follow me on Twitter, where I post all kinds of stuff all the time, then go follow me there at FPL Mate. Link again in the description, along with some other links if you fancy more FPL Mate in your life. But there we go, guys. That is the end of the video. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you later, mates. Bye bye.